I don't know if you've looked around lately, but I think we can all agree that we are not inside a raging bull market. In fact, it's a lot more like we went on some kind of a little trip and we came back to our city and the entire city had been razed. The entire city is burning. There are just cinders left of what we thought our city would look like when we returned. That's kind of what 2025 was. Sort of like we left in January, everything was great, came back in December, and all of a sudden the entire city is gone. The barbarians were not only at the gate, they went through the gate, they burned the entire city, they've left ruins. Here we are. We find the ruins of our formerly glorious city. The beautiful thing about this is that this is crypto. We're kind of used to this. Crypto is famous for this. The good times in crypto are so glorious, so unbelievably glorious. But the bad times are an economic hellscape. We are not in the glorious good times right now. We are in those other times. The good thing about this, though, is that we're used to it. And in crypto, the other good thing is it's sort of a wiping clean of the slate. We can sort of start from tabula rasa. We can start from clean slate, and we can now that the city has been razed, we can rebuild the city in a new and better way. We can rebuild crypto in a better way. We can rebuild a crypto that is free of as much of the nonsense as possible. Okay, don't ask me why that second part was silent there. I have no idea, but I'm glad everybody's here. Let's see who's here. Adam Olson is here. Adam Olson was first. He says, dude, I question if it can be done. What does crypto actually do? We're going to talk about it. Hilldog is here, and Hilldog was second. Thank you. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Neo Chad is here. Fly Over Me is here. Fly Over Me says, rebuilding crypto is a long road. It starts with the first step. Let's go. Let's go. Neo Chad. Let's go. Jay Marie is here. Hello. Let's go. Adam Olson says, I told my neighbors they should be decentralized. Their response was, why? This question is more about the central thesis of crypto. I think a lot of people, like our neighbors, all of our individual neighbors, they won't really understand until really good use cases come along. That's when they'll understand. You can explain sort of in principle the benefits of decentralization. Most people, I mean, they can understand it. They just don't care. They just don't care enough for it to be a worthwhile choice for them. But we need to build out the use cases that will make them care. Pucky Hawk is here. He says, hello all. We just have to hurry up and wait. Yeah, true. All these good things will probably kick in and drive things next year. Hopefully. Yeah, hopefully. 8 Eclipse is mad props to all the builders out there. Absolutely. Guinness Speaks is here. Tough day. Very tough day. No lie. Robert Perez is here. How much can a Ford F-150 trimmer tow? Ford F-150 trimmer. What does trimmer mean? What does trimmer mean? Adam Olson says, I can tow an F-35 if probably greased. Okay. Damn, 36 cents. We've been here since FTX. This sucks. Yeah, it kind of feels that way, right? Mission Zambia is here. Good morning, Mission Zambia. Guinness Speaks says, it looks like buy time to me. Ease Weeze is here. I need some copium, some hopium. Yep, I think we all do. Intersect released their report on our Zambia Cardano Hub meetup. Please have a look. We hope to have regular meetings where we'll educate and onboard onto Cardano. It's the only way to get adoption. Okay, yeah. Thanks for letting me know. I'll take a look at it. Shoot it to me if you don't mind. Shoot it to me on X if you have a second. Our Mission Zambia says, our mindset has to change from buying ADA to earning ADA. Figure out how to earn ADA and you will truly be contributing to the ecosystem. Oh, now we're talking, Mission Zambia. Now we're talking. I agree with this strongly. Bindocam says, I'm a contributor of exit liquidity. Bindocam is contributing exit liquidity. Otis Frichov is here. Says, looks like a Christmas sale is incoming. Let's go. Yeah, Bindocam says it's Guinness speaks says it's dumb not to do both. Bindocam, laugh out loud. I'm sure you can find a better role to play. Yep, I agree. Just DCAing my stacks and not gonna worry. That's a good way to go. This is legit, I think, for a lot of people. I think that's a legit comment. A lot of people just kind of scraping by. I think it's true. Guinness speaks says most of us DCA and stake. We aren't going to stop. Okay, that's how I am when I'm fiat mining for sure. Dr. Doke is here. I ate you before is here. James Syracuse is here. Afro in the Wind is here. Candice Borsier is here. Yeah, you made it to a live. Thanks for coming. Crypto Gypsy is here from Australia. Thanks for joining from Australia. Brown bearded hermit is here. Lone Eagle is here. Hopium Den Crypto Richie is here. My second time making your stream on time. I stake with AOS. Let's go. Thank you sincerely for staking with AOS. I appreciate that. Thomas Kirkpatrick is here. Mike M says Yamaha BW350. Okay. AOS is on. I guess I'll wake up from my nap. Let's go. Crazy Speed Freak. Thank you. Thank you for waking up. Stock up on ADA or night? Interesting question. Brian Packard is here. Okay, I think we got Louis Winthorpe is here. Thank you for joining, everybody. I appreciate it. So here's what I'm getting at with this title and thumbnail. It sucks that 2025 was a failure in crypto. Like, it wasn't really a failure. It's kind of like saying, you know, the beautiful leaves on the trees in your yard, the beautiful flowers on the bushes and the plants, they all die in winter to reemerge in the spring. It's not really a failure of the plant that the leaves fall and the flowers wither. It's not really a failure. It's just part of the natural life cycle. That's kind of what's going on in crypto. I mean, you know, the timing isn't exactly what we would have predicted a year ago, but certainly this pattern of these amazing, beautiful, unbelievable highs and horrible, punishing hellscape lows. This is all part of crypto. This is what crypto does. It's the volatility is part of why we're all here. It's part of why it's exciting to be here. Not these parts that we're in right now, but you can't really have this. You can't really have the great, fantastic, unbelievable highs without the low parts. So it's not that crypto necessarily failed this year. It's that we are at a low, an unexpected low, right? I think we all expected that this year would be the year and next year we would start our long trek down, right? That's how it's gone previously, 4-year cycles. That's no longer the case. This year sucked. We all know that. You don't need to be told. But the beautiful thing when you are at these terrible economic hellscape moments we inevitably experience in crypto, we have an opportunity. The opportunity, before I go on, Ada Fox is here from Australia as well. Samuel Flores is here. Thank you for joining, Samuel. Appreciate it. Are you saying Cardano is number one? I agree with that. Cardano is number one in my mind, not on CMC, but in my mind, Cardano is number one. Dr. Anytime is here. Brown bearded hermit is right. Crypto in 2025 was kind of like purgatory or Groundhog Day. So the horrible part is economically it sucks, right? And it's like none of us would be here if not for the economic part. So the bulk of it sucks. I'm not trying to say it's a net good. That would be gaslighting. It's not a net good, but there is a part of it that is good. Net negative, but there is a good part. And the good part is we have this opportunity. The opportunity is that all of the fuckery gets washed out, right? All of the nonsense in crypto gets washed out. And we kind of need that to happen. Like, we needed that to happen after the 2017 ICOs. A lot of terrible things happened. A lot of terrible coins were sold. Basically, a lot of fraud. We need to wash out all the fraud. About every half decade or so, about every 4 or 5 years, we need to wash away all the fraud. We need to kick those guys out. happened with ICOs, happened with PFP NFTs, happened with, DeFi governance tokens to some extent. I think we needed the DeFi platforms, but there was some fuckery with the tokens, some things like that. And this cycle, of course, we had meme coins, right? And it's like, it's not terrible that these things exist. It needs to be a permissionless ecosystem. We need to allow, if people want to sell tokens that people can use their profile picture, that needs to be allowed. And people should be able to do that. There's no reason why people shouldn't be able to do that. Same thing with meme coins. If you want to have a coin that, is represented by a meme, people should be able to do that. Like, I think it's great when Doge first came out, the first meme coin, when Doge first became a thing, it was amazingly amusing. Crypto had been a very serious place up till then, and then all of a sudden there was this little dog and this great little cartoon with some very sort of sprightly music, and it was very charming, and anybody could see the appeal because it was very unserious, and crypto had been far too serious at that point. So all of these things kind of should exist, right? We should have meme coins. People should be able to mint meme coins. We should have coins that have images that can be your profile pic. These things should all exist. But it shouldn't be the fucking focus. That shouldn't be the focus of our fucking ecosystem. These things should be like people's little side hobbies. It shouldn't be the most important goddamn thing going on for 4 years around here, right? These should be little hobbies, right? It's like you can go home and turn on the stupidest TV show if you want. You can watch the stupidest YouTube videos all night. Nobody cares, right? That's fine. That's fine. But it shouldn't be society's entire focus, right? If you like to watch really stupid YouTube videos all night, that's cool. Anybody should be able to do that. It should not be the focus of the entire society. Same thing goes for crypto. Like all these little things, these little trends that come into crypto and then die, all these trends are fine. It's fine for people to engage in those. It's fine for people to feed that demand, but we allow it to overcome us. It subsumes all of crypto. And along with it, always comes this value extraction fraud element. Every single one of those trends, there was some way for somebody to produce those assets related to those trends, the assets that fed the demand around those trends. They produced those assets, they extracted value from all the communities, and then they dumped on the heads of the people who held those assets, right? There was this fraudulent wing of all of those trends, right? Not everybody who did those things was engaging in fraud in any way. There are many honest actors, who are involved in all these things. All of our projects since, from, after Bitcoin basically involved some kind of ICO up until a certain point. Airdrops started happening at a certain point, but most of the things that now we look at as being like bedrock foundation of crypto, most of these things came to us through ICOs, right? NFTs. I think we all appreciate that non-fungible tokens exist. Meme coins. Like I said, Doge was charming. I'm glad that little Doge video surfaced at the time it did in crypto because it let everybody know that crypto could be fun. It didn't have to be totally serious. So there are good things with all these things, but every single cycle, we let one of these things subsume all of crypto. It should be the hobby thing, not the entire focus of everybody's day kind of thing. We should be able to do real shit. We should be able to do real shit most of the time. And if you want to do the silly stuff, that's fine. We do need to kill. We do need to delete. We do need to cut out all the malignant fuckery because as we've seen, along with a lot of these things, there is abuse and fraud that kind of comes in. Anytime there's a lot of money moving around in crypto, there are going to be people who come in and try to engage in that thing in a fraudulent way. We know this happens. We know there were meme coins that were sold and insiders basically dumped on the heads of the people who bought some of these meme coins, and maybe you could argue there was some utility in people being able to engage in the launch of some of those coins and, dream the dreams about vast wealth from having bought those coins. But in a lot of cases, it's not at all what happened. The only people who experienced vast wealth were the people engaging in the fraudulent activities. So now is our chance to rebuild crypto. I think we need to do a couple of things. Culturally, we need to not make the silly shit the focus of our whole movement, right? It's like if the focus of our entire movement is a meme coin, if that's what the entire focus of our movement is, we're doomed. That's doom, guys. That's total doom. That doesn't go anywhere. That's some super niche shit that the rest of the world's never going to jump on. And there will always be so much fraud attached to it that it basically is like net negative in terms of like progressing the crypto movement. People hate it when you call it an industry. So I'm calling it a movement. You can use whatever label you want. So culturally, we can't allow those things to be the focus of the entire industry. The second part is a more important part. We've talked about this before on the channel, but I think it's so true going forward for the next cycle. We need to do real business on the blockchain. We need to do real business. We got to do actual business. We can't just do this weird digital dreamland stuff. We got to do the real stuff. So Mission Zambius is something pretty important. Figure out how to earn ADA and you will truly be contributing to the ecosystem. We got to start doing business in crypto. We got to start doing business with each other inside of our ecosystems. So crypto originally, it's called a fucking cryptocurrency, not a crypto idea escape, right? The idea isn't, the whole point is not to, come up with ideas and, have this all just be about ideas that only exist in the mist, the digital mist. The whole idea is that these things are fucking currencies, right? And the mainstream gets really confused because they read that word in the goddamn title. It's a cryptocurrency. And then they look around and they're like, okay, it's a cryptocurrency. What can I spend it on? And we offer them a bunch of shitty meme coins with cartoon animals. And they're like, okay, well, that's not very attractive. Like, what did you guys do before the animals? And they're like, we had other animals, but they were on non-fungible tokens. Now that's what we did. That's what we did 4 years ago. For this 4-year period, we're doing shitty cartoon animals on fungible tokens. That's our new shit. That's our evolution. We went from shitty cartoons on non-fungible tokens to shitty cartoons on fungible tokens. That's what we're offering you. This is not the stuff of mainstream adoption. This is some bullshit. This is some bullshit that doesn't get us anywhere. It's just this like constant Ponzi scheme. That we're iteratively running Ponzi schemes over and over again, and everybody's like, "Yay! I'm a member of the latest Ponzi. That is my identity inside crypto. My identity is that I am a member of this latest Ponzi, not the previous Ponzi or the other contemporaneous Ponzis. I'm all about this Ponzi." That's the fuckery that's got to die. That shit is not appealing to normal humans, right? We're all a bunch of like very, very digital humans who are happy to spend a lot of time inside this digital world we've created. And so just like, identifying, creating these identities around which Ponzi we're attached to, it may fly in this digital dream world we live in, but that is not real world shit that real world humans are ever going to adopt. They're not going to get down on that, right? So we need to do what cryptocurrencies promised in the beginning, right? I mean, it was called a cryptocurrency from the very beginning. Bitcoin was a cryptocurrency. The idea was that you'd use it as a fucking currency, right? We've got to do that. We've got to do business on Cardano. We've talked before about the blue pages, which were built out by one of our own here on this channel. So I think this is a start, just recognizing. It's like step one is recognition that there are a lot of people who have businesses and we could pay them in goddamn ADA or night to do their business, right? To do their business. Okay, so let's go to the comments and see what everybody's saying in the comments before we move on here. Okay, where are we at? Okay. I miss ADA bounties. I thought that was a great way to earn ADA. Too soon? What was ADA bounties? Tell me what ADA bounties was. This is a good sign. Midnight rank number 56. This is pretty good. Midnight was number 56 on CMC today. Fantastic news. Okay. Louis, hello. Thank you for joining. Okay. Samuel Flores says, you are number one. Thank you for saying that, Samuel. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. Being here before smart contracts an all-time high. I used to check price and stress so much. Now I know Cardano will win and I'm here for the long haul. I don't stress anymore. Gives me more time to DCA. Yeah, I think that's a good thing. A lot of us were here. And sorry, that was James. That was James saying that. But thank you very much for saying that, Samuel. I like genuinely appreciate that. But I mean, the good thing is a lot of us who are a part of the army of spies, I think a lot of us are more like long term. So these like very down parts of the market aren't as painful for us for sure. Okay, let's see. Where are we at? Oh, we had some positive things happen in crypto. Okay. I used to worry about dollars too, then switched to only caring about coin count and how many rewards I get per epic. Yeah, I think that's a lot of us. Otis Free Chove. I think it's a lot of us. Accumulation zone. Okay. Yep. Guinness Speak says, how many times you say I'd back up the truckload ADA in the 30s? Here's the chance. True. Yep. I ate you before. Agrees with Otis Free Chove. Hopefully this leads to a total reset. Solana at $2. Yeah, I mean, like this whole cycle was dominated kind of by two things. Bitcoin treasury companies, and we had a little bit of activity, people starting Ethereum treasury companies and things like this, but it's basically treasury companies and this giant meme coin casino that we call Solana. Those were the two big themes. And I think we did need to go through some pain to wipe that away. We are still in the early adoption phase of crypto, not even to the early majority of the growth bell curve yet. True. We've had some scams in the Cardano ecosystem. I agree with that. I think you can't debate that. We've maybe had less than some other ecosystems, but we've had some. We've had some for sure. Frazik is here. James Syracuse says I was delegating to those pools. Wow. Okay. At Cardano's here. Brown Bearded Hermit says everything is permissible, but you're right. We don't actually want the shallow distractions to be the focus to lead the narrative of the whole industry. Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's got to be permissionless. That's like one of the pillars of crypto. It's got to be permissionless, but it's kind of like, it's sort of like, I'm okay if somebody is walking down the street, like in front of my abode, and they're like juggling. And like maybe they do this every day. Like they walk to the bus and they're juggling while they walk. I'm totally okay with that. Nobody should stop that dude from juggling while he's walking. But if every goddamn person in my city, if I suddenly went outside and noticed every single one was a goddamn juggler, I would I would want to pump the brakes on whatever that movement is. I'd be like, yo, I'm not against, some of you guys being jugglers, but something's gone wrong if everybody's around here doing juggling, right? And if it was like crypto, I would dig into it and discover that there was some kind of a goddamn juggling Ponzi scheme going on where they're all getting paid to juggle, while they walk. That's what would happen if it was crypto. You discover, oh, they're actually not interested in juggling. They're doing some kind of a Ponzi scheme. Adam says, I'm ashamed that absolutely nothing has happened to make blockchain worthwhile. Hope the Clarity Act will change that. Crypto has been masturbating for too long. True. Call it lack of marketing or whatever you want, but the spotlight wasn't on the builders creating real things. Absolutely not. spotlight was on goddamn cartoons for the last 8 years. We've been like this weird decentralized, non full motion cartoon factory for the last 8 years. We've been like fascinated with non-moving cartoons. Besides, the more coins I get, my AOS DRep gets more votes. Help us grow. Thank you. Thank you for delegating to the DRep address. I appreciate that very much, Otis Freechove. Sincerely. Kill the fuckery. We do, Dr. Doak. Yeah, I mean that. We got to kill the fuckery. Let's see. At Cardano, okay. Isn't that just the nature of crypto? What would be the alternative? Caps to how much? No, we got to allow it. We just culturally have to turn away from it. Like it's not that. So here's the real thing. The real thing is we don't actually love fucking cartoons that much. We don't fucking love cartoons that much. We don't. We do not. All of us as a group, there's some silly bastards in crypto. We do, but as a group, we do not fucking love cartoons that much. What people love is goddamn Ponzi schemes. That's what they love. They love Ponzi schemes. And we've just decided to do Ponzi schemes as cartoons. That's what people love. That's the fuckery, right? So it's fine. You can do all the cartoon shit you want to do, but we need to culturally quit pretending like we're all obsessed with goddamn cartoons, cartoon animals. We are not. For the last 8 years, we have not been obsessed with cartoon animals. We've been obsessed with fucking Ponzi schemes. That's what's been going on. These have been Ponzi schemes shaped as cartoons, taking the form of cartoons, manifesting as cartoons. We've been fake cartoon guys, real Ponzi scheme guys. That's what we've been doing. And we had this regulatory arbitrage thing going on so that we were allowed to do it, right? Some of these guys who have launched all of these cartoon projects, if they had done that shit in the securities markets, the SEC would have had, they would have had some questions. They would have had some interactions with some regulators. I'll put it that way. But in crypto, we've got this regulatory arbitrage thing going on. So it's like the best place ever to do Ponzi schemes. And that's what's been going on, right? And that's what we need to acknowledge. Like, it sounds ridiculous if you say like, hey, how do we stop the dudes from doing cartoon stuff? That sounds ridiculous until you acknowledge the truth. And that's that underneath the cartoons were Ponzi schemes. We need to get away from all these goddamn Ponzi schemes. That's the truth. Yeah, I mean, and people are pointing out in the comments that some of the cartoon shit produced high volumes. Yeah, Ponzi schemes are going to produce high volumes. We know that. We know that from the securities world. People fucking love Ponzi schemes. It's true. They love them. Hola, Rulo. Thank you for joining. Jose Cano, thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, it was fun because Ponzi schemes push those dopamine buttons. Ponzi's, when you join, I mean, I've never joined a Ponzi scheme, but what I know is from hearing from victims of Ponzi schemes is that it pushes those dopamine buttons. It is a lot of fun. It hits those dopamine buttons because you get to imagine being on top of the Ponzi. That's why it's so fun. I ate you before says, yeah, most of the decks looks like they're marketing to 8-year-olds, not grown adults. Why ice cream and kitty cats? Not sure what we are thinking there. Yeah, I mean, it's like I think it's kind of like the logos people chose for dexes reflected the culture of the movement, and the culture of the movement was very tied to these Ponzi schemes that wore cartoon masks. There were Ponzi schemes wearing cartoon masks, and they were so prevalent in the culture that the dexes they sort of adopted what was prevalent in the culture, which was these cartoons. But I get what you're saying here. It's time to go old school Andreas Antonopoulos and live on crypto. Yeah, I mean, to a certain extent. Recently I saw a small snippet of an interview with CZ, and the interviewer asked him so you don't have any fiat. And he was like, no, I have this card. You know, he had like a card that he could use to spend his crypto, which has its own shortcomings. There's issues about self-custody and paying spreads and all those kind of things and what that actually does. But he basically doesn't keep any fiat. He lives in crypto. I'm not saying that's practical for everybody, but what I'm saying is we need to use crypto as a currency. We need to not just first look at that first part, crypto, right? We don't need to look at that first part. We need to focus less on the first part and more on the second. Actually, we shouldn't focus less on the crypto part. We should focus more though on the currency part. I can't even. Thank you for joining, Joe Davidson. Only on these videos. I actually swear all the time in real life. Like the way I'm talking to you right now is the way I talk in real life. Like I definitely curse in real life. I just haven't done it previously on this channel prior to the last like month because YouTube would punish me. YouTube would punish me for doing it, and also I absolutely couldn't do it if I was gonna have. I couldn't do it to certain beyond certain thresholds because of advertising. But I'm no longer monetizing the videos with advertising, so I can do whatever I want. I can be natural now. I can be authentic now. So, long-time listener, your knowledge of the field is greatly appreciated. Samuel Flores, thank you for saying that. I really appreciate that, and thank you for joining the live stream. But I appreciate you saying that very much. Very kind words. Thoughts on the Coinbase update? We're going to address it. We're going to talk about the Coinbase update. I will admit, though, ahead of time, I have not consumed as much of the Coinbase stuff today as I wanted to. So I literally only saw like one post about it, even though I was kind of looking forward to hearing what the hell they were doing. I sort of forgot about it today, and I only found like one post. I remember Candice Borsier says, I remember when I couldn't get Daedalus to even load the reboot. The reboot sure helped. I'd be holding for much longer. Yeah, same. I remember when Daedalus was the only thing we had to store ADA, basically. I mean, Yoroi was a very early entrant too, but Daedalus was certainly our only full node wallet. Cardano and Solana have one thing in common. Both are going to $7. Very funny. Very funny. 2026, the year of privately transferring rock JPEGs. Basically, I mean, people may not remember this, but there was one of the early NFTs that achieved an absurd value was literally just like cartoons of rocks. It was literally just a rock, and it was one of the early ones that achieved like absurd values. Okay, how do you pay? Mike M says, how do you pay an ADA to redeem the night token? Do you enter your ADA holding address somewhere? Yeah, go to the Midnight page. Just go to the Midnight website, or actually just Google Midnight Glacier Drop, and you'll find a website. You'll find a website that's like midnight.gd, and there will be a page that is something like midnight.gd/redeem. And that's where you can enter your ADA address. You'll get your thaw schedule. And when your thaw is up for your first 25% tranche of your allotment, then you can redeem it. And you'll have to have some ADA to pay the transaction fees. Okay, ADA Bounties was a project funded by Fund 9. The site was built and had rudimentary functionality to post bounties for tasks in ADA and CNTs, similar to Fiverr if the commissioner is the post. Oh, I've never heard of it. I've actually never heard of it. That's interesting. Okay, that's kind of interesting. I've never heard of it. It's kind of like, actually, it's kind of similar to what the original Army of Spies. The original Army of Spies DApp that was in Fund 3. Originally, before we put it in Fund 3, it was originally called Info Bounty. But very, very similar. Very, very similar. It's kind of like going to Pattaya, Thailand and thinking you're a gangster. Are you saying being in crypto and just doing Ponzi schemes? Dolphy Wolf is here. Okay, so let's get into Oh, okay. The proposal was fulfilled, but the traffic didn't find it, so the builder ended up working on Moneta instead. Yeah, I mean that's the problem. You got to find. So you got to find. I think I might. I actually. So there are. I'll say this. I'll say this. I wasn't going to talk about this, but the Army of Spies DApp. The reason why this channel is still called the Army of Spies is because I never gave up hope on the Army of Spies DApp, that idea. I think the focus of that DApp was probably too narrow, but there are ways, there are architectures that I think definitely. I don't know about the project. I don't know anything about the project you're talking about. In fact, I never heard of it until you mentioned it. But I think there are architectures that make that kind of thing, you know, maybe more likely to work. I don't know if they really work, but maybe more likely to work. So maybe that's something I'll probably talk more about in the future. But I remember this incident. Lone Eagle says even Charles pirated an NFT of a picture of him that someone paid for to show that right click save does not let you own NFTs. I remember when that went down. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Okay. Yep. Okay. Let's jump into the news. Let's jump into the news. But I mean, we really have to do this thing. We have to do business on Cardano. It's not just we always think about like mega business. We always think about this like mega business. Like, how do we get Cardano on Twitter? How do we get, on X? How do we get Cardano on Google? How do we get Cardano here? How do we get Cardano there? Like, how do we do these massive adoption deals where it's like we're not the people participating? It's like we're going to take advantage of some other group of consumers. I think we have to be we're going to like make a partnership deal. The big deals are always like, when are we going to make a big partnership deal with somebody else who's going to be on the supply side of the transaction, and some other group of mainstream consumers are going to be on the demand side of the transaction? I think what we actually have to do is we have to do both sides. I think we, the citizens of Cardano, all have some economic input that we provide in society. We've got to provide that to other Cardano people, and we also have to be the demand for that. Like we've got to build a little city state here. If we imagine we're in classical times, right? We have to imagine we're a little city state somewhere in the Mediterranean, and we got to build our own economy. If we don't build our own economy, it's going to suck over here. We can't, we can't always just dream for the partnership with Sparta or Athens. We've got to build up our own little city state and make it, its own economy valuable. So I think we've got basically like a very low GDP in our little city state. We got to build that up. So, okay, let's jump into, oh my God, Dolph B. Wolf says, by the way, visited Project Catalyst Town Hall yesterday, 1,500 projects funded. Jesus Christ. Wow. Yeah, like, okay, I was gonna move on, but I'll address this is important. Decentralized adoption, not forced, but people using Cardano because it's the most useful thing to add general operations. Here's what I'm imagining, right? I'm imagining you are an accountant, a doctor, a plumber, an HVAC guy, a piano teacher, a guitar teacher, a boxing coach, whatever, in your city. There are probably, you might be in some city where there are no other Cardano people somehow, but probably you live in a city where there are other Cardano people. And there are probably even Cardano people in your city who are looking for a boxing coach, a piano teacher for their kid, an HVAC guy, a plumber, a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant, whatever. It's just that we don't connect with each other. Like, we don't even make an attempt to connect with each other and do business in ADA. But Mission Zambia's comment up above, I think, is the key here, right? The reason why people should do this. Let's say you're the, let's say you're the accountant or the bookkeeper or the boxing coach, and you would like to DCA into Cardano, your choices are you can either go to Coinbase and pay their spread plus fee, which sucks, give them their their parasitic middleman fees, or you could earn that by providing boxing lessons to some other Cardano person who's in your city, right? Or, you could be the accountant. You could prepare the taxes for that person or whatever, and then they pay you in ADA. It benefits both of you because all of a sudden you just got ADA and you didn't have to pay the parasitic middleman fees of the Coinbase or the other centralized exchange. I'm glad they exist, but if we can skip those fees, that'd be better. And the person who paid you in ADA, or if you don't like the tax consequences of that, the administrative tax burden of recording your gains and losses, maybe an ADA native stablecoin, that person knows that by spending that money, they're creating volume on the Cardano blockchain, right? It's positive for both people, right? But we don't do that at all. Like, I don't know if I've ever even seen it. I mean, I've had people back in the early days of Cardano. I did a few transactions where I paid somebody for real world stuff in Cardano, and I think likewise. I'm pretty sure I had people pay me in Cardano. I definitely did in other prior to the advent of Cardano in other cryptocurrencies, Litecoin, Bitcoin, Ethereum, several different cryptocurrencies. I had people pay me for stuff. I'm pretty sure I also had people pay me in ADA, and I'm pretty sure I paid people in ADA. I definitely paid people in ADA. I can think of a couple instances of that, but I haven't seen that for years. I haven't seen people even attempt that for years. And if you think about it, it's a much better way to DCA. If whatever your DCA amount is, say it's 5%. Say you target 5% of your paychecks to go into Cardano. Not saying that's a good number for anybody, but let's just say hypothetically. Instead, you could just try to make 5% of your customers be Cardano people, and then you're going to get way more ADA because you're not going to be paying those middleman fees at some fiat on-ramp like Coinbase, right? It's like this would be a benefit to everybody. So people who have small businesses or professionals or tradesmen or whoever, if you have some good or service you offer to the general public, you could do that on Cardano. It's just that it's hard, right? It's doing the connecting part is really hard. It's not practical. I think that is a way of people have to pay bills. So it is practical up to your DCA amount, right? It would not be practical for any of the hypothetical, businessmen I described right now to have 100% of their cryptocurrency of their revenue come in as cryptocurrency. But up to their DCA amount, it is practical. If they're trying to DCA 1% and they have 1% of the revenue come in terms of ADA, it's totally practical. Then they have the other 99%. Like, I don't think we need to, it doesn't have to be an all or nothing thing, right? They could just target a DCA amount as a percentage of their revenue. I mean, that would be totally practical. In fact, I've done this in the past. I DCA'd less when I was getting paid in ADA by people. Like, that was my DCA. So it's totally practical. And I don't think we necessarily have to delude ourselves into thinking that, somebody is going to get 100% of their business from crypto. It's going to be some small percentage. Yeah, but I mean, like, would you rather pay ADA transaction fees, or would you rather pay Coinbase fees and then pay ADA transaction fees to get into your hardware wallet? It's like either way, you're going to pay ADA transaction fees, right? Unless you are going to buy it on Coinbase and keep it on Coinbase. But even in that case, the Coinbase fees are so much more. They're so much more. The transaction fees in Cardano are pretty low, right? If somebody sends me $100 worth of ADA, transaction fees are very low. If I buy it on Coinbase, transaction fees, not good. Not good at all. Okay. We need to move on. We spent a long time talking about the thumbnail, and actually there are things underlying this episode besides just the thumbnail. So little housekeeping first of all. Jason Appleton is on the job market. If you have a job that you think you need to fill anytime soon, you should consider Crypto Crow. Crypto Crow would probably crush this job. He describes what kind of jobs he thinks he'd be good at. He talks about stuff he's done in the past. He has a long explanation. If you're trying to hire somebody right now, you should consider Crypto Crow. He'd probably crush it. The dude puts out great videos. He has spearheaded his own projects. He obviously knows how to talk to people. I think if you're trying to hire a job at your company, maybe consider Crypto Crow. He'd probably crush it. I said that honestly. Hire this man. He'll probably crush any job you put in front of him. People should consider it. Also, another housekeeping item. Probably tomorrow night, I have an event, a non-crypto event, a real life event that is mandatory attendance. So tomorrow there will be no video at this time. So just be aware of that. No video tomorrow. I hate it when I have to do that, but this is like an absolutely mandatory attendance thing, and there's not really any way around it. So apologies. If your paycheck pays all your bills, then you can risk more in crypto and excess to gain wealth. If flipping paycheck to paycheck, then you need to get out of debt before taking risks. All true. All true, for sure. For sure, all true. Okay, let's move to substantive topics here. So this came out today. This was interesting. So I definitely have a significant other. I definitely have a significant other. And this is not actually related to the significant other. But it is, it's even more, it's very mandatory. It's beyond that level of mandatory. So, and in fact, the significant other was basically checking yesterday to make sure I was going to take tomorrow night off. So there was a little pressure. It's not related to the significant other, but it's there was some pressure applied from that direction. Okay. So it's not jury duty. No, jury duty. I'm only specifying it's not jury duty, so you guys know it's not something that's going to go on. It's a one night only thing. So okay, so people should be aware of this. So here's part of why I'm saying we need to quit with all the Ponzi's dressed up as cartoons, right? The Ponzi's dressed up as cartoons. There was a casino for these things. There was a big casino that specialized on these things. This is also not the case. But there was a big casino just for these cartoon things, and that is over now. That is over, as you can see from these numbers. So the number of active traders on Sol has dropped from 4.8 million to 680,000 since the start of 2025, marking a roughly 7x decline in activity. And what I notice in crypto is when these trends are going on, when these various types of Ponzi's are going on, it's really hard to resist, right? I've described this as sort of like the Venn diagram, which I've done on this channel, where I draw, 3 different circles. One circle is like short-term crowd pleasing ideas. Another one is like disruptive ideas, and the third circle is like good ideas, right? And whenever we have these Ponzi scheme trends going on in Cardano, that first circle, short-term crowd-pleasing ideas, like that whole group of people, like the herd, the flock, they're all into whatever the latest Ponzi is. It's like very hard to resist. So when we were up here, it was very hard to say anything bad about the Ponzi's because the crowd is all about it. It's like a disruptive idea to say, hey, we shouldn't do this particular Ponzi. The crowd will get very mad at you because that's a disruptive idea, right? In this case, it's also, you can have disruptive ideas that are bad ideas. Like the first guy who was like, hey, let's go from the non-fungible cartoon Ponzi's to the fungible cartoon Ponzi's. That was like disruptive too, but it was a bad idea. It fits into the part of the Venn diagram that doesn't include good ideas. But let's not do Ponzi's is sort of disruptive, and it's a good idea. Like, let's not do Ponzi's, even if they have cute cartoons, even if they're masked by cute cartoons, right? So, and by the way, when I say that when I say that some of these cartoon projects are Ponzi's, I'm not talking about any particular project. So don't associate that with any particular project, especially as I show you this. But this is a serious question. Given that this particular type of trend in crypto has not done well this year, you could argue that this is like over. This particular type of trend has ended this year. It's like it's not what it was a year ago. These are the numbers. My serious question, everybody, is: does everybody still feel like funding 5 million ADA unsecured non-recourse loans to the particular type of project that kind of fueled all this, right? Because I feel like if these numbers and the lawsuit stuff from yesterday, if that had come out prior to our vote on this, I feel like a lot of people might have changed their minds. They might have felt differently. And as I cruise through the comments, I find a lot of people, it was not a surprise to me that I found a lot of people saying, oh, I never supported this. Some people were like, I like it. People are like, I wasn't for it from the start. I never understood how in the hell that loan was ever passed. Hell no. Obviously people who support that particular project, who have bags in that project, they're all going to say like, no, it's different. This one's different. This was one of the good ones. We're going to hear from those people that this is like, a good version of this type of project. But I feel like if this had come out, if people had realized this and the information from that lawsuit had come out before this vote, I feel like not everybody would be as on board to make a treasury withdrawal for 5 million ADA that goes to an unsecured non-recourse loan. So people here pointing out the same thing. I never did. Nope, I never liked the idea. Yep. Funding a meme coin. Yep. I think a lot of people, I found, man, not a lot of people when I first announced that I was voting no on that, both times actually, 1 million people came out of the woodwork, and it was like, why are you anti Cardano? why do you hate Cardano? And this time I put that out there. A lot fewer people saying it was anti Cardano to, suggest that the result might have been slightly different. So nothing we can do about it now, but I thought I think it's kind of interesting. The timing, that was less than a month ago we finalized that vote, or less than a month ago the voting period for that ended. And already data has come out that I think would have changed some people's opinions. I didn't see a large number of people who didn't seem like straight bag holders who were like, no, this doesn't change my opinion. They're out there. Those people are out there, but not that many. So here's what I saw about Cardano. I saw this announcement, or about Coinbase. I saw this announcement. They're going to have perps and futures and leverage. And it's kind of funny because we had so much leverage back in the day already on Bitfinex. Back in the day when I was like still under the impression that Mel astrology was real and that you could draw Fibonacci's and trade based on that. I was definitely spending a lot of time over in Bitfinex, and Bitfinex already had leverage. You could use 100x leverage in Bitfinex. So when I saw today that Coinbase is now going to have leverage for US traders, I was like, we've kind of always had leverage in crypto. It's always been available. Like, you didn't even have to use a VPN to use Bitfinex back in the day. We've sort of always had leverage. And I don't know if this really adds anything to the markets. Like lately, you see a lot of people saying they wish there was no leverage in crypto at all, because it results in these wild swings where the market makers get accused of, manipulating the markets just so they can wipe out everybody using leverage. So I don't know. They sort of announced this like the crowd was going to go wild. But I don't know. I'm curious what percentage of people, obviously we're in crypto. So anybody, any industry, any movement wants to be subject to as few regulations as possible. Um, but I kind of wonder how many people in crypto really, really are going to be like, "Oh my God, thank God, finally leverage." I think like everybody who's tried to trade with leverage in crypto has gotten burned by it, probably multiple times. So I sort of feel like it's only people who've never used leverage who are going to be like, "Oh my God, finally, please, please give me leverage." Um, Let's see. Thomas Kirkpatrick says the exhausting amount of arguments over that loan I got in the summer on X. Exhausting. Yep, exhausting. Sub-Zero says kind of cringy the way he was signaling everybody to clap. Yeah, it's very. I wish we'd go back to. I wish big crypto products would try to be more authentic. Big crypto companies in their presentations, they kind of do like the TikTok like very inauthentic sort of rehearsed thing, like you're reading a script instead of just like talking. There's a really big difference when you see guys like this do a presentation like this. It's like it comes off as very inauthentic to me, like he's just reading a script. Um, Very different than like Charles when he's trying to describe something to all of us. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're gonna see a lot of people because of this, we're gonna see a lot of people, experience leverage for the first time. And a lot of people are gonna get burnt. A lot of people are gonna get super burnt by using leverage. I don't even know what, I don't even know what they're gonna let people go up to. But, if we're talking, are we talking about I mean, on Bitfinex back in the day, we could go 100x, I remember. But I don't know what they're gonna let people go up to, if there's gonna be like limits or what it's gonna be. Um, Lone Eagle says leverage is like going to Vegas to go into the high roller room and win. Um, what are you most excited about Q1 2026 for Midnight and Cardano? Uh, Probably the privacy dApps. Probably to see what cool things people build with privacy dApps. Also liquidity. I'm excited to see liquidity come into the ecosystem so we can kind of get back to business. Uh, A better auditing process is needed for Cardano to fund other crypto projects on other blockchains. The scammers don't care who they scam. Are you saying when you say for Cardano to fund other crypto projects on other blockchains, are you saying like Catalyst will fund a project and then it just leaves Cardano? Is that what you're talking about? I don't know. I would say, I mean, I don't want to accuse anybody of drug use, but I would say and I'm not presenting this as truth, so don't sue me. Don't sue me, BitBoy. But it seems like a lot of people were pointing at least to exotic substances as his downfall. So I don't know. I don't know. Oh, Coinbase will allow up to 50x leverage. Yeah, Nigel Sanchez says bad idea on the leverage. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, God, you're gonna turn loose a bunch of yeah, I mean, they're basically gonna turn loose a bunch of teenagers with 50x leverage. We all know, everybody who's around in the early days of crypto leverage knows how the story goes. I mean, it's great for fees. It's great for fees for Coinbase, if people can use leverage, it's like just turbocharging, turbocharging their exchange. But yeah, 50x leverage. I think we know how that story's going to go. So, uh, what else did they announce today? Was it just that? Was it just perps and futures and leverage? Was that all they announced today? Like I said, I was only able to consume like basically this one snippet of this video. But what else? What else did they announce? Was that it? Was that the entire announcement? They kind of made it sound like it was a reinvention of Coinbase. Okay, I can't even says, yep, for integration, Cardano will probably need to fund other projects on other chains. Oh, interesting. Interesting. Yeah, Nigel says, I use leverage 5 to 10x, but it's a quick in and out only for professionals. Do not try if you cannot trade spot. Yeah, I mean, it's a tool. It's a tool. But it can it can lead to problems. It is a tool, but it can lead to problems. It's kind of like a chainsaw. Like chainsaw, if you got to saw some wood, chainsaw is useful. Do you hand a chainsaw to your 9-year-old who's never used a chainsaw before? Probably not. I include myself in the retail group as well. I'm not dumb enough to think I know better than the house or leverage trading, so I stay far away. The adult in me prefers the wheat side, but the boy in me prefers the frosted carnage that will happen. Yeah, well put. Well put. Oh, they're gonna go after Pauling market. Okay, also a prediction market. So they're gonna go after the Pauling market. That's probably a good call. That's probably one thing they should do. That's obviously that's obviously a good use case for crypto. I see people arguing that Pauling market. I see people arguing a thesis that prediction markets are going to become social media for crypto. Like basically like prediction markets are going to become like they're going to fill the same role that social media is. Instead of people like seeing a post on social media and talking about it, people are going to see what the prediction markets are doing, and that's going to be the item they're going to be talking about as opposed to somebody posting something. The new updates were a bunch of new gambling tools. Okay, makes sense. Makes sense. Okay. So you guys probably also noticed the lawsuit stuff, this stuff that we talked about the other day. This is getting a lot of coverage. It's getting a lot of coverage. And some of it is like very, very poor legal analysis. Like people are confusing. People are seeing, RICO Act and assuming it's a criminal, that this is some kind of a criminal action when this is a civil suit. So people, there's a lot of really bad legal analysis about what's going on in this lawsuit online. So just so you know, people are acting very authoritative about what's going on here, and there's a lot of really bad information out there. It doesn't really make a difference at this point because they nobody even knows what's in those 5,000 chat logs yet. So we don't know what's in there. And like I said, if you're not in the US, there's a lot of frivolous litigation in the US, and we don't know what this is. We don't know if there's going to be some really damning information in the chat logs like there was in the case of Binance, where it actually was a criminal inquiry. This, of course, is civil, but we don't know if there's going to be really damning stuff in the chat logs, or if it's possible this could turn out to be frivolous litigation too. We don't know, but there's a lot of really bad information. But I grabbed a couple posts just to show people how much attention this is getting. So people are making really long posts about this and ending with things like this. I'll keep you updated over the next few days. When I think it's time to dump your Solana, I'll post it here publicly. If you're holding Sol, you'll wish you followed me sooner. Trust me. So watch this carefully, because if this really is the beginning of the end, most people won't realize it until it's already too late. So people are obviously using this for a lot of engagement farming. This might be the end for Solana. But I wanted to put a few of these posts up here just so people understand the amount of attention that lawsuit's getting right now. X Last Gambit says setting up people for failure like this should be criminal and considered predatory. Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of thing, like, I kind of think Coinbase probably did this knowing that a bunch of people, I mean, people are going to misuse leverage, just human nature. People are going to misuse leverage. And down the road, there might be enough of those people that, we have a certain type of administration in Washington, after this one, at some point, and, maybe some senator or some rep in Congress will put a bill forward to limit, the amount of leverage that can be used here. So I think they do these kind of things knowing that they might get regulated in the future, even though right now things are kind of wide open. Like you're not going to experience pushback from the wild boys in the current administration, right? They're not going to push back on you on this. They're pro crypto all the way. So I think Coinbase does these kind of things knowing that the regulatory environment might get more restrictive in the future. And this is one of those cases where it might, like 50x leverage. I could see, them getting some regulatory pushback that makes 50x leverage maybe no longer palatable. So we'll see. I think they've got a few years of wide open stuff right here. Here's another post from Danil. Danil tagged me in this. This is kind of interesting. So the same law firm. You can tell they are more than happy to do these crypto lawsuits. This one is about Haktua. You guys remember the Haktua girl? What was her name? Haley Welch or something like that. You guys probably all saw that video back in the day, and you've probably heard about her meme coin token. What was her name? I think they had it somewhere. Um, somewhere, somewhere. This isn't actually the complaint, but somewhere in here they say her name. Anyways, um, I think a lot of lawyers are seeing this. There's a lot of attorneys out there, who are more than happy to do these kinds of plaintiffs cases. They're more than happy to represent plaintiffs in these kind of suits, especially if it can be a class action, because the attorney's fees in class actions can make up huge chunks of the total recovery. It's like every person in the class gets a small amount of money and the attorneys get this gigantic amount of money, right? So attorneys are more than happy to file these. It kind of makes me think that it's probably like this. It's what's going on this week. Attorneys planning lawsuits against meme coin issuers and launch pads probably looks a bit like this. You probably remember this scene from, which one was it? Alien Covenant, where David, the cyborg guy, goes to this planet and just decimates the population. This is probably the kind of fantasy a lot of these plaintiff attorneys are having in their heads as they draft these complaints, right? It's kind of tailor-made. They look for deep pockets. If you have defendants with deep pockets, which a lot of these crypto projects are, certainly deep pockets. If you have that and you have willing, plaintiffs to join the class, I mean, obviously right now you can find a lot of those. The meme coin prices are not good, which means a lot of people are feeling very burnt right now, and they will very happily join these classes. And the attorneys, I mean, they just there's a class of plaintiffs, and they're more than happy to start drafting those complaints and see if they can get anything to stick at all. So I think, this suit and the suit that these guys are describing, this is probably just the beginning. This sort of happens every cycle in crypto. There's lawsuits. There were lawsuits over the ICOs, there are lawsuits over all these trends. But the reason why we see so many lawsuits is because we sort of, and I'm not talking about any of these particular projects, but the kind of projects that, these types of attorneys are going to go after. The reason why they have so many targets with deep pockets is because this phenomenon where we're dressing up Ponzi's as cartoons. Lone Eagle says, I bought into ADA at 3 cents and do not want to sell for 2 pieces for 10,000 BTC, Bitcoin pizza day. Yep, I think about that often. Otis Fricho is out of here. Catch you next time. Thank you for joining. Brown Bearded Hermit says, well, prediction markets are adjacent to what Charles was describing in his veracity bonds idea. I don't think I've heard his whole veracity bonds thing, but definitely prediction markets. Poly market success is so funny because we've had prediction markets previously, Augur, and I forget the name of the other early big one. It's amazing that those guys couldn't quite stick it, and they couldn't quite stick the landing on those. And Polymarket has been so phenomenally successful. It's kind of wild because prediction markets were one of the first things that people launched back in the day. Not one of the first things, but very early. They launched prediction markets very early, and nobody could stick the landing until Polymarket. Polymarket really hit it. Ruandre says, all I want is ADA above $1. Fair enough. I would accept that at this point. Scapegoat. Who is this? Who is the scapegoat? I'm so sick of these retarded self-professed crypto guru accounts and copy pasta posts. Yep. Only after one last cash grab. Yeah. She did some bad things. Oh, you're talking about Haktua girl? Yeah. The whole purpose of the treasury, if I understand Charles, is to invest and bring more utility and marketing for Cardano. They will fund things like USDC and other projects on their chains. Yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. You mean to bring things like USDC to Cardano? Yeah, definitely. We're gonna have to spend some money on those things. I mean, that's part of the critical integrations budget. That's definitely, yeah, I mean, we're definitely gonna have to spend some money on that. That's why I think everybody was so happy to approve the critical integrations budget, because we all know, we all realize these things are gonna cost money. David TH is a potential BTC. Okay. Okay. So David has some feelings about where price is gonna go. Okay. Um Those other prediction markets didn't launch in the Trump second run era. That's true. That's true. I mean, it was much more entertaining to be involved in the whole political scene this cycle. I mean, say what you want about Trump, he is way funnier than some of our previous presidents. Today, I saw a video with Caitlin Collins, and she was walking down the one hallway at the White House where they have the pictures of all the presidents, and Trump had like basically handwritten some plaques, not handwritten, but he had himself written plaques for all of the previous presidents, calling Joe Biden, sleepy Joe Biden, the worst president of all time. Under Reagan's plaque, he pointed out that Reagan was a fan of Trump before Trump even began his political career. God, what did you say about it was crazy. It was crazy. I can't imagine. I can't imagine trying to make the claim that any president has been funnier than Trump. Like, some of the stuff he does is so ridiculous. Regardless of where you are on the political spectrum, it's like Trump is the stuff he does is more entertaining. He's kind of like a comedian. Some of the stuff is so ridiculous. It's like we have a comedian in the White House in some ways. I mean, because I think he knows. I think he knows that it's ridiculous for him to write a plaque describing Joe Biden's presidency under the Joe Biden picture in the hall that has portraits of all the presidents. Like, he knows it's funny. Previous presidents would not have done that, but it is super funny, which sort of does explain why Polymarket did so well in this market, because people were highly engaged. People were highly engaged because it was more entertaining. I didn't know the Polymarket is banned in Australia. Yeah, I did not know that. I did not know that. That's interesting. Um, what does crypto actually do now? I think we need to use it as a goddamn currency. I do. I think we need to use it as a currency. We need to do business with each other. And I'm gonna have more to say on that in the future. I'm gonna have more to say about that. I'm holding some things back right now. The potential over leverage and crash with Coinbase moving head on into the robbery forest, but that's just a theory, a conspiracy theory. Yeah, I mean, leverage, giving 50x leverage to every American Coinbase user is yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like you're pumping steroids into the trading done by that demographic. It's going to accelerate everything. Fiat stocks, metals, crypto, everything has so much downside risk at the moment. It's quite challenging for the average individual. Yeah, it's crazy. The markets are crazy. Tom Petty, it's almost like he was a reality TV star. Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's an entertainer. He's an entertainer. I mean, you can, yeah, I mean, obviously, it's going to piss off, like, we know from the previous vote, it's going to piss off like half the people. But it's still like, we've never had it's like we have yeah, I mean, we basically elected an entertainer. um but the jokes are going to piss off like half the people for sure. But it's never been more engaging. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, previous presidents might have put a frame around the portraits, and that would have been reported like, oh, the White House is putting frames around all the portraits, and people would have been like, oh, okay, interesting. And then, that's not a news item. But the president writing pejorative writing descriptions of previous administrations in a pejorative way and putting it up as plaques underneath the portraits of all the former presidents. It's kind of like, it's kind of like, it's almost like junior high humor. But it's highly engaging. Like, people are going to have an opinion about it. Did he still have the auto pen picture up over Biden's portrait? He's done that too. For sure, the most funny president of our lifetimes. Yeah, it's like half the people are going to hate the jokes, but he's definitely putting way more energy into being funny. I think some of the previous presidents have said some pretty funny things and probably are pretty funny in their normal lives. Or like very charismatic, and part of the charisma is having good sense of humor, but Trump definitely puts more energy into it. Leverage is like sending a new skier onto an icy diamond double black diamond with moguls. Yeah, it kind of is. It kind of is. It's just like so much more high consequence. It's like you can take something, you literally are making it much more high consequence. I agree with that part. That is not a reason to vote for him. Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to lay out any opinion on whether or not people should have voted for him, but I'm saying that like it kind of makes sense that Polly Market would be so successful because he's so polarizing. So people are going to have an opinion, right? It's like we've had some candidates. We had some when he first rose, out of all the Republican candidates, we had some much less colorful candidates that people would not have had an opinion of on both sides of the aisle. There are many, many candidates that many fewer people will have opinions about, but Trump, everybody's going to have an opinion about this guy. So I would argue for good reason. I mean, it's not idiosyncratic of them to have an opinion about him. It's funny when Trump was a Democrat and donated a lot, the Dems said he should run for president. Then he turned Republican and became president. Now they all yeah, I mean, yeah, it's all true. He is pro crypto. That's the only reason I needed. Sub-Zero says he's not pro crypto. If anything, he is pro his sons. That's probably true. We're in the shriveled phase of the crypto bubble. Yeah, we are in a bad, whatever it is. It's a bad phase. Whatever it is, it is definitely not good. So we've got a few more interesting news items. So speaking of Trump, and I hope I try to make this palatable for people on both sides of the aisle. So don't think I'm trying to like push one side or the other here. I'm just reporting the news. So this was a kind of an interesting little blurb here where Trump is basically saying the current financial system is outdated and will soon be replaced with the state-of-the-art cryptocurrency framework under the new structure bill. The entire financial system could go on chain, powered by crypto. So this is pretty notable because this is this is the first administration we've ever had that would even dare say things like this. Like the current financial system sucks. We need to replace it with crypto. We've been so far from that. We've been so far from that in the past. I can't even says I don't know if this is right. So I definitely won't correct you if it's a view, but crypto as currency is still a long ways when it replaces. Yeah, no, that's all true. That's all true. It is a ways off. It's not. Crypto is much more cumbersome to use than your debit card. That's so true. But I think right now the comparison I would make is not between crypto and Visa. I think we should get there too. But right now, what I'm talking about is earning crypto versus paying the middleman fees on Coinbase, right? Like what is easier? To me, it'd be easier to earn crypto. To me, it's easier to earn crypto and not pay those middleman fees because I don't want to pay the fees. So, sure, it'd be easier. Let's say you are a tradesman. Let's say you're an HVAC guy. Is it easier to just use your Stripe account than to have somebody pay you in crypto? Yes, unless you marketed your services to the Cardano community. If you marketed your services to the Cardano community, they're going to be happy to pay you with a Cardano asset, and you're probably going to be happy to accept it because you're both Cardano people. And then the big benefit is not paying the middleman fees. You acquired Cardano, you acquired ADA or Night, whatever, or some stable coin, and you didn't have to pay the fiat on-ramp fees. So there's a pretty big benefit there. It's not Visa yet, but it's better than going to Coinbase and paying those fiat on-ramp fees. Adam likes the fact there's going to be a UFC at the White House. That is also, I mean, this is a great example of Trump being very polarizing. Like some people, when that goes down, like obviously the MMA community, a lot of it will be pretty stoked. But the fact that an MMA event is going to happen at the White House is going to be very, very polarizing. People are going to be, there's going to be a lot of people who are super pissed about it. So Visa has a crypto card now. I do not know much about it though. So the problem, here's my problem. Here's my problem with the crypto cards. So my problem with it is you give up custody, right? It's not a lot of the crypto cards. It's not a situation where you maintain full custody of all your assets and, it just like debits from your normal self custody account and, it's this seamless bridge into the fiat world. It's more like a thing where you're giving them custody, you're moving your assets out of self custody and into the whoever's running the card. You're moving it into their custody, and then they're doing things with your assets that maybe you're okay with, maybe you're not, and you're probably paying like a spread and fees. It's kind of like the fiat on ramp situation, right? It's like it's not this seamless thing where you're getting all the benefits of crypto. It's like you're using Coinbase and putting it in your bank account, your fiat bank account. Sub-Zero says, set up a peer-to-peer payment system on a mobile wallet with a built-in directory. Yep. Is this an MMA event for the digital community? It is. You're talking about the UFC at the White House. It's definitely an MMA event. And will people watch it digitally? Definitely. I see the gas fees on BTC and ETH are unpredictable. That is not sustainable. Someone just sent $10 of BTC and cost 1 BTC to send. Also with ETH, no standard fees. Yeah, I mean, this is part of the beauty of Cardano. Predictable fees is definitely a huge benefit of Cardano. I mean, that alone, if people understood that alone is reasons enough for people to adopt Cardano versus Ethereum. Yep. Charles versus Vitalik. Oh, are you saying in MMA? Dude, Charles is so much bigger than Vitalik. I'm not talking height wise, but mass wise, like they are in such different weight classes. That would be man, unless Vitalik has been like training a lot of jiu-jitsu, which I don't know of being the case, like I would not want to be the guy in Vitalik's weight class in that one. Breja says MMA fights at the White House equal President Camacho in the movie Idiocracy. Yeah. It's hard to argue against your point there. Let the wolf eat. Fair enough. You're talking about the Vitalik and Charles fight, right? Good. Fair point. Why fiat? Yeah, I mean, we know he's in dire wolf mode. He's in dire wolf mode at all times. So I mean, that's kind of what would happen. Why fiat still works as currency in the backing of a military force. If that changes to crypto, then wow, welcome to the new world. Too crazy to think of. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of conspiracy theories about this. That the U.S. wants to switch to crypto, wants to switch to stable coins so they can devalue the old currency and erase the old debt. So that's pretty funny. Yeah, the idea of Charles and Vitalik having any kind of a fight, like an MMA fight or anything else, is pretty hilarious. All tax returns on crypto. Yeah, I mean, tax returns, the use case of tax payment for blockchains is so good. It's so good. It'd be so easy to it'd be so easy. I mean, there's bad ways and good ways this could happen. It'd be so easy to make a system where you can just say, hey, anytime money comes into this address of mine, send this percent of it to the IRS and just have instant payments. I mean, you could basically erase the administrative burden of preparing taxes, and it could all just happen on chain. The bad version of that is that the government builds out non-voluntary shit on chain where a percentage of your money goes to the IRS, even if it's not supposed to, and it's like impossible to get it back because you never had it to begin with, right? That would be very, very difficult. That would be very, very difficult. Force the US to pop into it, like force the US to pop in, to pop into tax returns on crypto. Yeah, I mean, I think eventually that'll happen. I think eventually there's too many benefits to tax payments over the blockchain. I think eventually it'll happen. It's just, is it the good version or the bad version? All tax payments and returns done in midnight. Yeah, I mean, years ago I did a whole video about what would happen if all commerce went on the chain and the government couldn't. This was even before midnight, before even the notion of midnight. What would happen if the government couldn't associate the addresses? If there were no fiat on ramps and off ramps, if everybody just lived completely on chain like CZ, like if the government couldn't associate those wallets with individual taxpayers, it's like the only conclusion I could come to is no one would pay taxes because it would be unenforceable, and then the government would have to dissolve because it wouldn't be funded. So there's some serious stuff there. Omar Wright says no conscription. Yeah, this is the I covered this on the channel. This is the Warren Davidson bill, I think, that you could pay your taxes in Bitcoin. And I went into the actual bill, and so this is a bill, so it's a proposal. It's not law yet, it hasn't been passed, but it's a bill. And I went into the bill to the very language that allowed you to not pay any taxes on the gains. So you could pay your taxes in Bitcoin. And even if you had gains on that Bitcoin, like you bought a Bitcoin for $100 back in the day, you could use that to pay your taxes. And even if you had like an $80,000 tax bill, you wouldn't have to pay any taxes on your one Bitcoin, even if you bought it for 100 and you were using it to pay a tax bill of like 80 grand. So pretty awesome deal. And then on the back end of that, the US would just keep it and use that to fund the strategic reserve. So that's pretty good. Let's see. We are Brown Bearded Hermit says we are in the research phase of looking into fee markets on Cardano with Laos, but this will still be predictable, more so like choosing a slow settlement speed for a discount. Yeah, there was the whole period when we talked about the possibility of tiered fees in Cardano. I think there's some interesting things there. There's some interesting discussions there. Sub-zero, or the possibility of crypto going to zero and nothing gets in the way of the IRS. April 15th, tax day. Yep. Vitamin would try to change the fight to a coding fight. A certainty. This is a certainty. I'm glad they would never fight. Some people are born with muscles. Some. Yeah. I don't want to see those two fighting. Yeah, their contributions to society are enough in the crypto space. Some are born with muscles for brains. Also true. So let's hit we've got one more tab here. We have one more tab. So this is kind of interesting. Some of you will remember from back in the day, years ago, I very heavily covered what was obviously a breakdown in the Chinese real estate sector. So we talked about this on many, many different episodes. And it's good to, now that things are finally falling apart, it's good to remember some of the things we talked about. So here we have this post. This was from Daniil. Daniil tagged me in this one as well. Thanks, Daniil. I appreciate you tagging me in these. So this account describes this as China is hiding the pain with trillions in government stimulus, but they're crashing across the board. And this is actually important. And it's important because the numbers, I won't try to nobody, I was going to say, I won't claim to have double checked these numbers. No one actually can, because they lie about the numbers, or they're just wrong about the numbers, like they were about their population for the last 20 years. But the numbers are something like this. This matters because property is 1/3 of China's economy, bigger than exports, and housing makes up 3/4 of Chinese family savings. So imagine if 75% of, instead of going into the equities markets, if everybody just like YOLO'd into real estate. We talked a lot back in the day about how the sort of ghost cities were built, and we had, these like unfinished condominiums being traded like commodities. I mean, that kind of explains everything. If you think about that, unfinished condos that were never finished, no one could live with them in them, and no one wants to live in them, because they're just being speculatively traded as if they're commodities. This is a condo in this building. Nobody's ever going to go there and look at the building. Nobody's going to look at how poorly built the building is. The condo's never going to be finished. It's just an item to be traded. What does this sound like? This sounds like our little cartoon phenomenon we've been talking about earlier tonight, right? It's like people love Ponzi's. They do not love Ponzi's when they're called Ponzi's. They love them when they're called cartoons, cartoon tokens, or real estate. They love those things. China has been in love with real estate Ponzi's. And unfortunately, the Ponzi got so big, it was such a big part of the economy, it started crashing. So last cycle, we talked about this a lot. When each of the gigantic real estate development companies, and we're talking gigantic, when they started going into insolvency, we covered every single one. And it was amazing, because the government basically had no choice but to fill the hole that was created when these things would go insolvent. We covered the sort of riots that were happening outside of banks, and everything. They figured out ways just to fill all the holes, and it kept going on and on and on. And now we've gone through another cycle. We're back to that point where stuff starts falling apart again. Eventually what happens is the government can no longer fill these holes, right? You can always fill the holes by printing more money, but eventually people don't want to use your money because you print too much of it. You print too much of it, it gets debased too much. People don't want the money. So will we ever get there with this Chinese real estate thing? I don't know, but it's ongoing. It's still going on after all these years. It's still going on. James says it would suck if they just took tax from every payment. Like, I send you $20 for paying for dinner and they just tax everything. Yeah, totally sucks. That's the bad version. The bad version is every dollar that's sent to you in whatever form, they just automatically tax it. And the impetus is placed on you. The burden of proof is placed on you to prove that it's not income, right? It's like, we don't want that situation. It's okay if it's like this permissive thing where you can just like opt in. If you can opt in and say, okay, everything that comes into this wallet, tax it, at whatever my tax rate is, that would be fine. I think that'd be a really efficient way to do it. But of course, what the IRS would love to do is the opposite thing, the thing that you're describing. Celebrity Deathmatch. People won't remember this. That was on MTV, right? That was the claymation thing on MTV, if I'm remembering right. And yeah, that was actually very entertaining. Yep. And the condos built on that land just became like stocks or cryptocurrencies. And they started trading them speculatively, and they created one of the biggest bubbles ever. And it started popping years ago, and they just filled the holes, and it still hasn't quite collapsed like people thought it would. Jordan for America. Yes, let's fucking go. We are uncensored. Always. We're uncensored all the time now. Hoochie123 says, all I want for Christmas is Charles to pipe down about irrelevant shit not related to Cardano. Yeah, I mean, the problem with these guys, like these Charles type characters, is you can't really have the Charles without the opinions about all the other stuff. Like, if you try to give Charles a job, which in and of itself would be impossible, But if you tried to give Charles a job and you were like, okay, I just want you to talk about this one other thing. If you get that inkling, if you get that inkling to talk about anything else, just don't do it. Like he could never do that job, right? He's one of these guys, you're gonna get him opining on everything under the sun. That's what we get. I get what you're saying though. It does he's got strong opinions. When you got strongly opinionated people, they're gonna piss off a lot of people on a lot of things. Sometimes us as Cardano people, we probably hear things and we're like, oh my God, that's going to piss off so many people. But I think you can't have the Charles without all of that. I think, yeah, you got to have it. Joe Davidson says, I think Charles has too many cookie jars, not enough milk. Flat tax would take a nice, far wet bite out of the ass of the 1%. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, part of the problem with our tax code is very sophisticated actors. When the tax code is so nuanced and so complicated that it's like, tens of thousands of pages, what you end up with is the most sophisticated actors are going to optimize their position under the tax code the most. So the most sophisticated actors are also going to be the richest guys. And so you end up in a situation where the richest are able to optimize their positioning under the tax code the best. And the poorest are going to position themselves the most poorly. And it's kind of the opposite of what you want. You want everybody to pay the same, right? Some who are in favor of redistribution, air quotes, commies, I'll just call them commies. Commies would like the redistribution, so they'd like the rich got to pay more. I would be happy with the flat tax. If everybody would just pay the same amount, I would be happy with that. I think that'd be cool. Mallow, thank you for joining. Yeah, so I think one of the things that the conversation that's happening a little bit online right now is the conversation about post-labor economics. I've posted a few videos about post-labor economics in the past on Twitter. I think it's literally the most important conversation going on online right now, and people aren't really paying attention to it. Like everybody knows about the discussion, like, is AI going to take our jobs? And everybody likes to fight that battle right now. But the more important discussion that everybody should be focused on is when AI takes our jobs, how do we keep the economy rolling, right? What does post-labor economics look like? Because we are going to get to that post-labor place, like whether people like it or not, like that one's already decided. We're going to get there. And so if that happens and the workers aren't required, that means the workers aren't getting paid for their labor. That means there's no demand for the goods. So even if the supply can be accomplished much more cheaply because of AI and automation, there's no demand for the goods, so everything still falls apart. So there's really interesting discussions going on about post-labor economics. I posted a whole series of like 4 or 5 videos or something several months ago because I think it's so fascinating. I'll post another video tonight. There's one guy on YouTube who I think has the best handle on this conversation. Whether you agree with his conclusions or not is up to you, but I think he sort of does one of the best jobs of framing the issue. I'll try to post that later on tonight as well, but I agree with you. Money almost becomes meaningless unless you do something like what he's suggesting, in my opinion. Flat tax is simple. Take a percentage of every transaction. Yeah, I mean, some states in the U.S. have flat tax for income tax, and it works quite well. It's crazy how everyone can talk about global warming and all this stuff on farmers for cow flatulence, but data center AI will be the biggest carbon footprint. It's all a lie. Yeah. The beef thing, going after the beef ranchers over the emissions from the cows is so ridiculous because in terms of like percentage of emissions, it's like nothing. And actually, like if you do holistic, sort of like holistic ranching, where those one guys in Georgia, it actually sequesters carbon in the fields because the cow manure gets recycled back into the very fields the cows are living from. And there's actually carbon sequestration going on there. Do you think the money from banks being injected in the market now that they are allowed to buy crypto will cause a sudden boom once tax harvesting season ends? Yeah, I think this is an important thing for people to pay attention to. So tax harvesting is a thing. It's a thing. In fact, I've had accountants in the past ask me in years just like this one, ask me why I wasn't doing more tax harvesting. Um, and to them, of course, it's just like a matter of fact thing. Like, why aren't you doing this? And I'm like, there are, it'd be much more satisfying to sell my crypto at the top and see this gigantic gain, and they're like, oh, that's the opposite of what we want. We don't want a gain. And I'm like, yeah, but, but I'm a crypto guy. So, um, Brown bearded hermit says flat tax for the win, either on consumption or income, not both. I'm with you. I would actually favor. So the consumption thing is kind of like the redistribution argument. It's like if you're a young guy with nothing, you want to be a commie, right? You want to be a commie. If you're a rich guy with a lot of money, you want to be a capitalist. On the consumption tax, it's kind of the same. If you don't consume a lot, like I would argue that I don't consume a lot. And so I'm all about the consumption tax. If I was Jeff Bezos around there trying to keep my wife happy, buying a lot of yachts and shit, I'd be very anti-consumption tax because I already know I have an army of accountants who have optimized my position under the income taxes. And I'm like Warren Buffett, who famously said he was paying less in taxes than his secretary. Um, I think I haven't heard him mention this in a long time, but famously, when he was already making a huge amount of money, he pointed out he was paying a lower percentage, not in absolute terms, but in percentage terms, he's paying less than his secretary. So that's not optimal. That's why I like the consumption one because partially because I'm a low consumption guy, and also because people have some control over that. Like, it's like if you are consuming all this stuff, you can control your tax liability by consuming less, right? It might be bad for the economy at large, though, if we create a disincentive to consume. Like people already pay sales tax. So sales tax is kind of a disincentive to consume, but it's pretty small. But if we replaced all of the income tax with consumption tax, it's like, would everybody become like this Spartan low consumption person? Then you run into some of the same things people are currently saying about Japan. You see a lot of like little videos coming out now saying that they're dealing with this problem of that could be described as like a low desire society. Like people don't want to consume a lot, and that's problematic too because the consumption is what fuels the demand, right? It's like we have these consumption-based economies, and if the consumption goes away, the demand goes away. But I personally, because I'm probably lower on the consumption end, I would love it if we went to a consumption tax. I would love that. Seems like money is getting redefined. What is money? What is currency? Standard definition doesn't make sense. We are making new money. Yeah, I agree. We're gonna have to like what it means to participate in the economy is going to change, I think, because of AI and automation. What it means to be a part of the economy is going to change. I think we'll still have this sort of unit of account. We'll still have this unit of account to make trade easier because we're not going to go to barter. So we're always going to have money, right? Currency is always going to be a thing. I'll post a video later tonight, and it's sort of a solution. It's a guy offering a solution to post labor economics, and maybe he's wrong, but I think he frames the issues well. Can we speculate on how lobbying for clarity is going? I'm sure anyone going to bat for crypto is probably under NDA. I mean, yeah, I'm sure there's stuff the lobbyists can't say, but we get updates from guys like Brian Armstrong, who's obviously very involved in it. And I hear them still, I hear people still claiming, not necessarily Brian Armstrong, but I hear people still claiming that we're going to get something this month. It's now, most people will be watching this on December 18th. It's now December 18th. So are we really going to get something in December? That would be nice. I don't know if that's going to happen. We'll see. I kind of thought we would received the news that the US was at war with Venezuela, which could also happen tomorrow, because I think tomorrow is the deadline on the Epstein files. So I was kind of expecting war with Venezuela on the same day as the Epstein files dropping. So that could happen. I did see some headlines today that Venezuela was sending actual naval military vessels with their oil tankers. The U.S. says it is embargoing the oil tankers. So who knows? Maybe the U.S. will be at war with Venezuela tomorrow. And maybe that's what we get instead of the Clarity Act. But I mean, the further we get into December here, the less likely it is we get the Clarity Act. I would love it if that news came out tomorrow. If they announced, Clarity Act is done on the president's desk, that would be the best Christmas present I think crypto could get. Cobalt mines. What about them? What about them? It's only a 3K credit also. Are you talking about which credit? Post labor equals UBI. We have to spend it weekly, monthly, or lose it. Yeah, I mean, I think Andrew Yang did a good job of introducing the world to the UBI discussion when he ran for president. It was probably good he did to get people thinking about it. He kind of kickstarted the discussion. The question is, what form does the UBI take? So the video I'll post when I get done here, I'll put it on Twitter, just because I think people need to start thinking about these post-labor economic issues, is what form does the UBI take? So this guy has an interesting, I'll tell you what it is. So he's like, it's got to be dividends paid from the entities who own the AI and the automation. And he looks at the Alaska Trust, whatever Alaska calls their one. It's basically just like a sovereign fund. He looks at it as like a sovereign fund. Like it's, if you just taxed all the companies that own the AIs and the automation, that's really a transfer. But if you just said, hey, the new thing is, instead of just like straight up taxing these AI and automation companies, we're just going to say that the sovereign fund, owns a certain amount of the equity, and the dividends from that equity will go to all the citizens. That's his solution right now. Is it a good solution? I don't know, but I think the action in that discussion is, where does the UBI come from? Because it has to come from somewhere. If crypto got to the moon, I should pay taxes on my Lambo. Frazek says, seems foolhardy to stimulate consumption. I'd much rather see people being happy with less. I've been living stringently, but I am missing nothing. Yeah, I'm kind of a Spartan. I'm a very Spartan guy myself. My significant other is the opposite of Spartan, not in terms of spending, but just in terms of like the amount of items that are around. But I'm pretty happy on a very, very Spartan basis. I'm actually quite happy also. So I'm with you on that. Someone said war was walked back after Tucker leaked it and the ratings fell. I feel like this administration, I keep calling them wild boys because they are. I feel like they could declare war, send in some F-35s, get a poor response, get a poor response on that, and then walk it back the next day. It'd be like, Scott Bessent to get up there and be like, we're not actually at war. What the president meant was the following. It's like, no matter what Trump says, I feel like Trump could literally post on Truth Social, we are at war with Venezuela. This is a declaration of war, which he's not actually allowed to do, right? It would need to be a military action, not a declaration of war, but Trump could be like, we are initiating military action against Venezuela. And then if that didn't go well, the very next day it would be like, we've worked it out with Maduro. That could happen. If they think we are getting clarity this month, I mean, what are they smoking? The news cycle is full of other issues for now. Yeah. And I think like, if the Epstein files are going to happen tomorrow, I mean, that might be the news cycle for the rest of the damn month. So the blockade is tantamount to a declaration of war. True. Trump, I mean, we know this Cuban Missile Crisis, basically a very similar scenario, right? Trump cares too much about his ego in historical context. He wants to make decisions at the time that raise his opinion. Trump cares too much about his ego and history. Yeah, true. He definitely cares about how people perceive him and all those things. Oh, the trade-off for going green and the tax loss harvesting. Yeah. Fallout Season 2. I wish I could watch that. I would definitely watch that. Please no war. It would tank in a war situation. Don't know how much lower we can go, but don't want to. Yeah, I think a lot of us in crypto could do without war. I think we're all kind of like, I don't think many of us are rooting for war, especially with Venezuela. I'm not opposed to UBI if it is like the show Universal Basic guy. If he's like the show Universal Basic guys, and I can still have crypto. Yeah. I mean, I think it's got to be a situation where we can still do whatever we want. We can still work if we want to, but post-labor economics is going to involve some big changes for sure, no matter how we do it. Tariffs and AI. The only way to get Maduro out is with a ground war. There's no way the American public would support that. Agreed. Thought Trump was awarded a peace prize. He was definitely not awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, although he lobbied pretty hard for it. He had other people lobbying for him, but he was definitely not awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. He wanted it very badly, but he was not awarded it. And maybe that clears a runway for him to be the war president. He did change the name of the Department of Defense to the Department of War too. That's the thing. FIFA. Yeah, the FIFA draw ceremony looked like a peace prize ceremony, right? Is that what you're talking about? UBI would just let me play Infinity Rising more often. I would be okay with that if I could get paid. FIFA Peace Prize. Okay, I actually don't know about that one. Are you guys saying you guys are not talking about the football, the FIFA football draw ceremony? You guys are talking about an actual peace prize from some organization called FIFA Peace Prize. Okay, so maybe he did win. He didn't win the Nobel Peace Prize, but maybe he won this other peace prize you guys are talking about. Yeah, I think I would definitely be more gaming going on if I was getting UBI that covered my cost of living. I think there'd be more. I would probably still work a lot, to be honest with you. I'd probably still work a lot, try to build certain things. Whether those were businesses or things, I'd be building things for sure. I wouldn't just game, but I'd probably be able to do more gaming. So, okay, I think we have covered all the news from today, guys. I'm definitely serious about this rebuilding crypto thing, and I'll have more to say on that probably in the future, depending on how things go. I'll have more to say on that in the future. Yeah, what's that lady's name? She just escaped to Curacao, right? She escaped to Curacao. I mean, she's obviously who Trump would love to replace Maduro with. Not that the US should be, we've kind of been in the replacing leaders of Latin American nation states, for the last 100 years, and it hasn't exactly been a good business for us. So it's not like we should be in that business necessarily. I'm not saying we should, but I think we all know who Trump would love to put in there. Okay. So you guys are saying it is the FIFA I'm thinking of, and they gave him a peace prize. Okay. I didn't know that. Thank you for letting me know. But I'm serious about the rebuilding crypto thing. I think we've got to start using cryptocurrencies as currencies. We've got to do less of the Ponzi schemes. We need to stop doing the Ponzi schemes. It's like people are still going to do it. It's almost impossible to stop them, but we need to not let the entire culture of our movement get caught up in the Ponzi schemes. Like the central tenet of our culture, of our movement can't be, which Ponzi schemes we're a part of. that can't quite be the thing. We've got to focus on other things like doing real business, using crypto as an actual cryptocurrency. These are all things we've got to do. Samuel Flores is gaming in Guild Wars 2 as we speak. Nice. Thomas Kirkpatrick, thanks for joining. Sub-Zero. thanks for saying. I don't know how that's gonna work. I don't know actually how that's gonna work, but we'll see. We'll see what YouTube does. I hope YouTube incorporates crypto in a meaningful way. That'd be great. That'd be great. I very much appreciate you saying that though. Crypto Peace Prize is next. It will be a meme coin, or yeah, it'll be a World Liberty. It'll be a World Liberty meme coin. They'll give him something like that. But I think we've covered the news for the day. I hope we're able to rebuild crypto throughout this next cycle, whether it's just another year and it turns out we're in a 5-year cycle, or it's another 4-year cycle, whatever it is, I hope we rebuild crypto in a way that's more focused on using crypto as actual currency and less about all these Ponzi schemes dressed up with cartoon masks. But I hope everybody's having a great week. Like I said, I'm going to be out tomorrow, mandatory appearance. I absolutely cannot skip it. So I'll be out tomorrow. So apologies for that in advance, but I hope everybody is having a great week. I hope you're looking forward to a great rest of your week, and I will talk to you soon.